Oh, okay, sorry, I was waiting for the action, but welcome to Community Heroes Podcast. I'm Faith, and today we're here with our guest. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your name?
Okay, hi. My name's Levine Smith. I'm 49 years old, born and raised in Brixton. I currently work for a charity organisation that supports families and young people that are either ex-offenders, have been impacted in or involved in exploitation, serious youth violence, also supporting with mental health needs as well.
What does community mean to you?
Community means to me where it's about listening to the voice of that community, and not just like the older generation, but knowing that times do change, and it's about listening to the younger voices as well, and maybe even giving back as well, everybody doing their bit to give back.
Could you just repeat that answer because you just... Okay, sorry.
So community means to me about, listening to the voices of the younger generation as well as the older generation, and moving with the changes and times as well. For example, when I think about like Brixton, where I grew up, it's very different than when I, was there. But change is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like going back to what I was saying before, it's about listening to the voices, yeah.
Who would you say is your community hero and why?
It's a wonderful woman called Pauline Campbell. I worked with her on a project called Savu. And so, she worked with the Antisocial Behaviour Unit, and I worked on the charity that I talked about before. And this lady, she was on the interview panel, and I just remember seeing her, and she just really inspired me. She gives me good advice as well. She tries to, make me believe in myself. And it's something that was missing growing up, but she kind of instills that in me now. She's like a mentor for me as well.
Could you tell us a little bit about the youth work that you do?
So it's not really youth work. Mm-hmm. It's more, so I started off as a volunteer at this charity, as a caseworker. So a caseworker involves a little bit of youth work, but it's more about kind of going side by side with the young person. So it's whether you are going to the job centre with them or supporting family, or one project I was on working in a hospital, supporting young people that have been involved in serious youth violence. So offering them support, and that could be helping them contact probation, and just someone to listen to as well. So there's many factors, but it's more case working and youth working.
And why did you start working with young people?
I think going back to when I grew up and certain things that I've seen and I've gone through, and family members as well, I've always wanted to give back because I wanted to help other people that's been through injustice. I read a lot as well, so, whether it's in America, England, and what I was seeing, on my doorstep, things that were happening. But that didn't work out. But I then went on to counselling, and I'm more interested now in the mental health side of things and how things that happen to people, it impacts them as well internally. And, especially working with young males, they don't really, they're not able to express themselves as much as, young girls and women. So I've supported a lot of young males as well who've been able to open up and go on to, I feel like for me it's about the rewarding side of it, where you meet them when they're at the lowest part of their life, and then they go on to whether they go on their first job interview or they pass their theory test, or they just see a better path for them than they had before.
How do you feel about the reduction of youth services?
It's just something that's been happening over the years. When I was younger, there was play centres all over the place that you could go and do cooking, or if you was into sport, the arts, you could go on trips and it was all free. But, as I got older and I'm seeing the younger generations coming up, you'll see slowly they're closing. But in other areas, there's similar provisions for young people, but there's not enough. Myself, I've been on a project for a year, and then they cut the funding, and a year is not enough to kind of establish yourself. So it's happening all over the place.
And would you say it's very hard to get that funding now?
I think it can be, but it's, it's about who you know as well, and it's about not giving up. So I feel like even though that's happening, there's other ways to bring about something different.
Moving on, what do you know about the riots in the 80s?
It takes me back a bit. I remember the start of it. The son of Cherry Gross. We knew him in the area as well. We were close friends. We were all friends. I remember being young and seeing my uncles and everybody, there was a lot of activity going on. I didn't know exactly what was happening at the time. But then when I did find out, even though I was young, I was angry as well. And then to see that happen again in many years later.
Yeah, what do you know or remember about the 2011?
2011, so this is Tottenham. And I remember I was about to have my youngest daughter at the time and just watching it on the news and then finding out about what happened. I know there was a documentary as well, but they only show you certain things. Yeah. And ironically, that's where I'm working right now. I'm working in Tottenham. Oh. Yeah. So I pass that road every day when I'm going to work now. So you can kind of see what's been left over from what happened then, 12 years ago. When things like that happen, it kind of brings people together, people that can identify with it. They're on the ground, they're in the community. The community knows exactly what's going on, regardless what's on the news. Or, there's people that knew him personally, people that knew someone like him in their family or a friend. So I think it brings people together because they feel that. Yeah.
What do you know about the Windrush generations?
Not much personally, but my grandma and granddad, rest in peace, they came from that generation there. So it's only now since I've grown up as well, and I'm third generation. So now I kind of understand the sacrifices that they made as well, compared to what's going on now. But yeah, and I appreciate that generation and era because they went through quite a lot. Yeah, my granddad, it's where we grew up. So I'm the eldest of 6. So me and my brother, as little toddlers, we lived in the house with my mum, my uncles, and my grandma and my granddad. So it was very busy times. We'd be outside playing. My granddad was a hard-working man, drove the tubes. So he'd go to work, come back. He had the money as well, so he'd give us money, even to when we was older. We'd catch him in the pub, having a pint, and then, he was proud. Anytime the grandchildren came, he'd introduce everybody, and then ask us what we wanted. So he was very giving. My grandma, she was not as outspoken as my granddad was, but she could cuss. But yeah, she was giving as well and kind, and my friends used to joke and say, your granny, she's a joker. Back in the day, we'd wear wallabies. Those were the in shoes. And my gran had a pair. She had to have a pair. But yeah, she was the matriarch of the family. I think the same as everybody that came over at that time. They came over here for a better life. And even though they came and found out it wasn't a bed of roses as they thought, they still stuck at it. They were still determined to provide for their families, regardless of what else was going on in the household or whatever. So I feel like that's definitely inspired me anyway, yeah.
What do you know about the Windrush scandal?
Only bits that I remember it used to come on the news a bit, and I don't watch the news anymore, but it used to come up a bit about people that have come over here, they've lived here most of their lives, and then out of the blue they've been told you got to go back to where you come from. So for me, I look at it, the mental side of it and how traumatic that must have been for people where their families are being torn apart. I had a colleague that recently happened to as well. Just had a baby, was about to get married. And there's people now being held. So yeah, it's still continuing now. We don't really see it as much, but.
Do you have any advice for young people?
One of them I would say is to find out what you're passionate about. Think about what you're good at. You know, I ask young people sometimes, what are you good at? And a lot of the time they can't think, or somebody's never asked them that before. But it's about what's your passion, and not follow everybody else, but to, you know, go by the beat of your own drum. And just don't look for value and validation from outside, but seek it within.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you could like, comment and subscribe, that would be great. Bye.